this one's gonna be relatively different because it's gonna be more focused on the politics side rather than me reacting to lolcow stuff, specifically from Cyrax and Daniel Larson. And yeah, there's a lot of people out there that have wanted Alberta to succeed from Canada. As much as I like the idea of United Canada still being united, honestly, like, I have this feeling Ottawa's been kind of a bully to Alberta, you know? Like, Alberta feels like it should make its own decisions and stuff, and, you know, in my opinion, I'd rather agree with that. And, yeah, and Canada's healthcare system, if Alberta joined the U.S., I mean, if Alberta has, some people say Alberta is entitled to just keeping their free healthcare system, you know? But it's the feeling that if you get it, if Alberta's part of the U.S., you know, it can get it like much faster compared to like Canada, which usually the process of getting like healthcare is incredibly slow, and some people fought tooth and nail just to get the treatment they really need. hmm Also, Alberta joining the U.S. means it's makes it much easier for people to snowbird and just come to Florida when they want to escape the cold winters, because you don't have to go through much of the customs process. Yeah, Canada, you do have visa-free access to the United States, and your permitted stay is 6 months, which is basically covers most of the winters in Canada. But yeah, like there's some people that are like, yeah, some people are like, leave Canada before 2026 by nomad elite mass exodus. Mass exodus. Yeah, that was a year ago, and it's 2026, and I'm still in Canada, you know? Escape the Canada homeownership crisis before 2027. Why everyone is leaving Canada in 2026 and 2027 is like they say Canada's done for. Yeah, from what I can recall, Alberta may leave Canada. Honestly, can you please not over rely on the AI thumbnails, please? Honestly, if you hire an editor, I will have much more respect for you. Not saying that I don't, but honestly, AI thumbnails can just make a video low quality. And there's also leave the US before 2027 too, so they even say the US is fucked. And even they say like growing number of immigrants are deciding to leave Canada, and they say why. hmm Interestingly enough, it seems like this is the first year that Canada's population is actually dropping. So yeah, like I've been pretty nuanced on the whole political stuff, and I keep challenging myself with new points of views. You know, recently I've been like, what's been on my mind, what's been suggested on my mind is that Mark Carney could be like a pretty evil socialist who wanted to bankrupt Canada. Yeah, you see, some people are on board with communism, and I was like, whoa there. Like, you really want to live in a communist country? Like, I do know, like, Europe is, like, more socialist than Canada, you know? But, like, yeah, they're leaving Canada in record numbers and shit. Yeah. Say what's really going on. Like, yeah. Interesting. Canada doesn't seem to have a coat of arms. Yeah, I mean, I could see like Alberta being something like maybe a Northern Ireland situation where maybe like you could be a part of like both Canada and the United States, but I don't know if that's possible. You know, like let's react to some of the videos I see here. Biggest exodus in history.
Canada just hit a record no one's proud of. It saw its largest citizens outflow in history. And if that sounds familiar, it should. We've seen a large outflow of people twice before, and both times it was a housing crisis and a talent exodus tied to unaffordable dreams.
Yeah, yeah, I'm often remember that, you know, the housing crisis was like really bad in Canada. Like housing was extremely unaffordable in Canada. From what I can from what I can recall, especially in the GTA and Vancouver. And then there was like such a homeless population because of it. Then a lot of people are on drugs and stuff like that, you know. And then Canada ran a new ad while I was watching like the World Cup with Canada facing like Switzerland, I believe, where like they felt where it feels like they want to like persecute homeless people just for the fact that they're homeless and they think they might be dangerous, despite the fact that a lot of this is just not their fault. Yeah, like yeah, housing is not as expensive as it used to be anymore. It seems like the bubble is bursting, and that could also be the reason why we are able, me and my family are able to, well, basically my family is able to afford buying a new house.
I'm Linda, one of the Rogona sisters, and around here we talk about real issues facing Canadians today. So make sure to like, share, and subscribe because what I'm about to tell you might make you look at the bigger picture. Because the truth is, this isn't just about people leaving, it's about who's leaving and why. So, why should you care about people emigrating? Especially since Canada is still growing overall? Well, as Statistics Canada noted, the mass exodus of individuals leaving Canada were from non permanent residents. But Canadian citizens and permanent residents relocating abroad also surged in Q3 of 2025.
Oh yeah, I can figure that too. Like a lot of people leaving Ontario to go to Alberta and stuff like that. Yeah, I get that.
Why? Some might say it's okay. For every citizen lost, we'll just bring in 3 immigrants. Immigration does not fix emigration. For those that might be confused with what those two terms are, immigration is when people come into a country from abroad. Emigration refers to citizens and permanent residents leaving a country to live elsewhere. They affect the country in very different ways. Immigration adds population, it fills jobs like part time jobs, it boosts demand for housing and services. But emigration removes something else entirely. When someone emigrates, they take their skills that power the Canadian economy. They also take their taxes, their spending, and often their family with them. And that's why immigration does not fix emigration.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah. Can also being unable to afford proper homes is not a good thing. As in a cold climate, yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's Canadian-born that are leaving apparently. Many people say we have the same issues in the UK. This is a planned destruction of the West. Yeah, I'm aware that mass immigration has made the UK significantly more dangerous. It doesn't mean I'm against immigration. It's just I'm against like what's the word again? Uncontrolled immigration. You know, like if you want someone to live in your country, they should first be able to reason with you. In my opinion, like compared to the rest of Canada, Alberta is relatively chill, in my opinion. You know, but sometimes you will. There's some areas in Calgary that are a bit sketchy. You know. Many people said we left the UK 21 years ago for the Canadian Rockies, but Canada isn't the country we moved to anymore. The situation is a direct result of the Trudeau regime. Yeah, Trudeau is not a good prime minister. He, people will argue like by the time like what's that name again? Harper, yeah, like Harper, like when Harper left office, like Canada was ranked like one of the best economies, probably like the best economy in the first world country. And then by the time Trudeau has left, they argued that Canada has the worst economy of a first world country. Some people even claiming that Canada is like a third world country of some sort. And then some people look at Mexico and they say that Mexico is becoming a first world country pretty soon. Well, it's gonna take time. I mean, as it will take like 10 years for Mexico to truly become a first world country, it would take like 10 years for Canada to truly become a third world country. Yeah, maintenance fee is a scam. Yeah, I know there is often a thing called the boiling frog experiment thing, but I was asking the person who suggested me all this about how Mark Carney would plunder Canada, And like he suggested, now's not a good time to move to a country like Mexico just yet, but we'll see how things will go until then. I've been to Mexico several times. Specifically, the place I usually snowbird at is Puerto Vallarta. Puerto Vallarta. Puerto Vallarta, and I've been learning some Spanish too, specifically. It's known for its very, very nice weather. You'll see tropical like palm trees and stuff like that. And then you look at the climate here and it's like consistently warm year round. The record low is just like 7 degrees basically. But most people like snowbird here during the dry season because the average relative humidity is pretty high. And then it like gets rainy like all the time, like during the summer, it gets quite rainy. And then like for more than half of the days it just rains. Just rains, and when it doesn't rain it's just all humid. And honestly, that's now I've I was in Puerto Vallarta usually from January to March, but one time I was there from January to May. And honestly, yeah, I wasn't there during its really humid summers, but it's still relatively humid nonetheless here in Puerto Vallarta. Well, let's take a city like Calgary for example. Hmm, semi-protected again. You look at the you look at the climate here and you can see like throughout most of the year the climate is relatively shitty. All right, we're like it's the summer right now. It's July, and this is the temperature is like mean maximum daily is 23.5, and the yeah, it's pretty reasonable actually during the summer. So, but during the winter, okay, you say this doesn't look so bad. The mean daily maximum is negative 1.5. I mean, that's not too bad. Well, yeah, sometimes it can get as high as 17 degrees, and that's pretty balmy, but with the Chinooks and stuff. But we can also have really, really, really cold days. Like some days it can drop below negative 30, and there's some days where it drops below negative 40, and that's extremely cold. That is absolutely extremely cold. You know? So, like, you can imagine being homeless in that kind of weather. Like, that would suck. You would die from frostbites and stuff like that. Like, a lot of people would perish from something like that. Yeah, yeah, and that's why many people do snowbird. When it, many Canadians snowbird, especially the older population. You know. But yeah, like Alberta, that one is like Canada's most conservative province. And many people say that like Mark Carney is quite a socialist. So I guess with Alberta being the conservative province, you kind of have like a balance of some sort. It's like the national park of Banff, you know, like. But to be honest, like, as much as it is hard to tough out the winters in, you know, like a place like Calgary, you know, especially when it's like when the daytime is only like even like less than 8 hours. Summers in Puerto Vallarta would be like insanity, you know.
It masks it. Now, I'm not saying that immigrants are not good quality people. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying, if you're losing good,
Yeah, like what I consider definition of low quality people include like scammers and stuff like that. Basically, other kind of frauds, people who are malicious, people on kiwi farms. Like, someone says like I have Canadian lineage, family Canadian lineage dating back to the 1800s. Work and live in the GTA, Ontario, Canada. Yeah, they say Bill C2 empowers government's employees, not police, to open your mail, search your phone and computer, all without a warrant. Say Bill C8 is like gives the cabinet ministers the power to kick Canadians off the internet, impose fines, and demand data. No judge, no police review. Now, please take this with a grain of salt because, yeah, I mean, and also Canada's on fire. Like, Canada is on fucking fire. Like, and yeah, like the Canadian government doesn't seem to be doing anything about it. Like many First Nations, like villages were burnt. I know there was one, but you know, I feel like there's probably many more. Yeah, like China's preparing for $38,000 gold. Yeah, it's cold in Canada. As you get older, I find you cannot tolerate the cold as easy. Yeah. Many people say we left Canada, BC, in the spring of 2021 for the United States of America. Initially, we bought a small business. Yeah. I live in Montreal. I'm struggling to pay for my apartment, groceries, and my car. Yeah, like same person I argued about, Canada being like going to like the socialist pits. He argues that America is actually doing relatively well in its economy. Like, what's interesting about Donald Trump, and I don't like Donald Trump myself, but Donald Trump is a businessman. Now, I've heard many people say that he has bankrupted many casinos and stuff like that. But some people would argue that Donald Trump allowed people to actually like make businesses that actually helps them economically flourish or something like that. Whereas like Mark Carney, like he argued that he wanted the money for himself and taxes the Canadians to hell and back. You know, just for his own interests. And from what I've heard, that's what people like. Many socialist countries have been considered failures, whether it's Cuba or Venezuela. You know, Soviet Union. That many people tried to escape the Soviet Union. In Pol Pot's Cambodia, there was like a mass exodus because there was a huge killings going around. Now, always come up with your own assumptions, okay? Like, you can always question this. It's just what I got. You don't need, it's not, don't take my word for it. It's just the words I've been, like, suggested by someone I was talking to. He had this feeling that Mark Carney is, like, some sort of greedy dictator or something. It's just how he feels. Or I'm like, okay, maybe that might be. Okay, maybe that might be. I mean, I don't like Mark Carney either. And considering, like, Keir Starmer, that guy was such a clown. And yeah, some people, like, say that they leave the United Kingdom to come to Canada, and they say Canada's, like, 10 years behind. Because they say that Europe is, like, a lot more socialist. Like, I also remember, like, from what I can recall, like, I've seen a statistic that says, like, 12,000 people in the United Kingdom get arrested for things they post online. Like, that is some supreme bullshit right there. Shouldn't be arrested for things you post online. So long as it's not illicit material, then you shouldn't be arrested for questioning or criticizing your government. Many people say Canada are passing bills to demand people to not question the government or criticize the government. Seems like that. Possibly. Maybe. I don't know. There's many different points of views to the bills that happen to be going through Canada, so I mean, yeah, like from what I'm aware, governments are usually out of touch with the people. It's really hard to find the diamond in the rough. Like a head of state like James A. Garfield would be like pretty rare. I know I've talked with some people who would argue that fascism would work. It's just the only way it could work is if the government knows what it's doing. But like I understand like Hitler's a dictator and stuff like that. But yeah, like he and his henchmen, especially his henchmen, convinced Hitler to do all these atrocities. And in Nazi Germany, I know people get paycheck to do a lot of things and get them to build and do stuff like that. Even when they're in the rubble, there's some areas that still get their paycheck. So I get that, but the atrocities that Hitler did against the Jews amongst other different races and other stuff are just very deplorable. Another system that I can think about that could be ideal is capitalism and socialism balancing itself out, regulating each other. I think that could. I'm not ideology based on any or anything like that. Like honestly, I don't align myself to any ideology, but the thing of the matter is, the reason why the Nazis were considered the more of the two evils compared to the communists, despite the communists killing everyone regardless, is the fact that the Nazis were just really unfair. And they persecute based on religion and race and stuff like that. And Nazis are just terrible, terrible, terrible people. I do remember there were like documentaries. I remember there was this 12-hour documentary that tries to convince people that Hitler was a good guy when in reality that's not the case. But yeah, I've seen plenty of World War II documentaries. Hitler's Circle of Evil is a pretty interesting one. It's a pretty good one that argues that it's his henchmen that is actually one of the more driving factors of Hitler's awful decisions. Yeah. 10 ancient structures in Alberta no one can explain. Okay, like Nomad Capitalist said Canada is worse than this South American country. I wonder which one. You see, like where I live close to Calgary, and Calgary is a relatively chill place. You know, crime rate is relatively low, but even though crime rate is relatively low, I still have seen people using drugs. Still seeing some freakouts on the streets, and that was in downtown Calgary, by the way. You know, yeah. People always say, "Oh, Canada's gonna be the World Economic Forum like controlled country or something along the lines of that." Some people do genuinely believe that. Let's see. Let's check out Nomad Capitalists. Canada is worse than this South American country. Maybe after watching much of the rest of this video, I guess.
Quality people, there is a serious problem in that country that needs to be addressed. So here's the key point. You can replace population numbers, but you can't replace experience overnight. People coming into the country can hide the number of people leaving on paper, but it doesn't cancel it out in reality. One grows the headline numbers, the other drains the foundation. Let me put it to you like this. If you own a company, you keep hiring entry level workers, but your engineers, designers all start quitting. You don't say we're still growing. You say something's very wrong.
Yeah.
Canada saw record high exodus in 2025. Over 120,000 citizens and permanent residents left the country in just 12 months. It's the highest number of people to emigrate in any 12-month period on record. Yes, you heard that correctly. And here's where it gets more interesting. This same warning sign showed up just two other times in Canadian history, once in 1968 and again in 2017.
Mm.
What do both of these years have in common? Losing talent to other countries, and overheated housing market and a looming correction. In the late 1960s, Canada was losing skilled professionals to, you guessed it, the United States. A trend that shows up in migration records from that period. Back then, Canadian workers often found better career opportunities south of the border, especially in sectors like technology and management. And at the same time, parts of Canada were facing affordability challenges in housing and urban growth, much like what we're seeing today. Sound familiar? Now, fast forward to 2017. Housing prices in Ontario and British Columbia have climbed dramatically. Economists and international institutions were warning about overvaluation in Canadian real estate. Remember seeing all those headlines on saying Canada is going into a real estate bubble? So, in fact, prices were rising much faster than wages in many urban centers. In response, Ontario introduced a 15% non resident speculation tax on foreign buyers as part of its fair housing plan. And federal regulators tightened mortgage qualification rules to cool demand. The market didn't crash, but these changes did slow the pace of price growth and signaled the government was trying to act on affordability pressures. And now here we are again, 2025. Another immigration surge, another market that's cooling off, another warning. And you might be asking, where is this mass exodus happening? Well, according to Statistics Canada, Ontario and British Columbia have seen the largest population declines in 2025, with both provinces losing more residents than any others in that last quarter. Independent estimates suggest a large share of Canadians who chose to move abroad have historically come from these two provinces, especially young professionals. Are you surprised? Quebec also shows signs of elevated outflows compared with other regions, but official provincial immigration breakdowns are still evolving. Pretty much every province and territory in Canada except Alberta and Nunavut. And if you're thinking, well, maybe they just want warmer weather, think again. This isn't about palm trees, it's about potential, where people feel they can afford to build a life, raise a family, or actually own a home before they turn 50. So ask yourself this. Why might a skilled professional making $150,000 consider a move to a place like, I don't know, Austin or Phoenix?
Mm. Austin or Phoenix. Yeah, like. I think I'll just end this off here for now. So let's do research on this a bit later. So yeah.